It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley, but he has the morning off. Eric's on assignment. We'll be back Sunday night, Monday morning. And I can tell you right now, he's going, I wish I could be there. And we wish Eric could be too today. I will tell you, I feel like I've been catching up. Really strange because it's like 10 to 4 Central Time. And I'm tired. And I'm saying to myself, I really want to go to sleep now. But the judge had said that, they could deliberate till just, he originally said 6. Then at 10 to 4 came out and said, Fox News, top headline, there will be a third day of deliberations. I went, good, I can go to sleep. So I went to sleep, woke up in the middle of it, saw my phone blinking, looked, saw that Trump had been found guilty of the 34 counts. And I said, well, I'm in the middle of my sleep. I'm going back to sleep. Then I woke up. So apparently something changed in there. And wow. If you listen to yesterday's show, I knew at that point, once the judge gave his instructions, and I talked to a few friends today, and they asked me what's going to happen. I said he's going to be found guilty, or maybe one will object. But you won't know that for a while because that would go on till at least next week, and you'd have a hung jury. And so I knew when you saw the instructions, you knew at that point that it was basically over. If the jury followed the instructions of the judge, and there was no reason to believe that they would not. Let's get to some audio cuts right now, and then we'll get to everything here. Yeah, it's a dark day for America, without question. But we'll get to that here just momentarily. Here's Bragg yesterday, the DA.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day. In matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job.
That's Bragg yesterday. Here's former President Donald Trump.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA. And the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Former President Donald Trump. This article, I thought, hit it right on the nose. Rich Lowry, National Review. When Trump made his statement to reporters on Wednesday morning prior to the jury the jury getting the Alvin Bragg case, he repeatedly used the word rigged, and in this instance, he was absolutely right. The charges were rigged. The prosecution's presentation of the case was rigged. The judge's management of the case was rigged. The gag order was rigged. The instructions to the jury were rigged. The whole thing was rigged from the beginning to the end in the hopes in the extent this case and the guilty verdict will matter in November, rigging the presidential election. If this had happened in an alderman race in Cook County, Illinois, it'd be discomforting enough, but it happened in what purports to be the greatest city in the world and involves the campaign to become the most powerful political leader in the free world. The high stakes would, one hopes, compel the authorities to have the most exacting standard for their own conduct and put a premium on maintaining the perception and reality of fairness. The logic of rigging runs the opposite way, though, because it is considered so imperative to stop Donald Trump. Any means of opposing him becomes acceptable, indeed necessary. By any normal standard, Alvin Bragg failed in his duty as a prosecutor by distorting the process in the manufacturing of the 34 felonies he charged Trump with. Yet by the prevailing standard on the left, he has faithfully fulfilled his duty by so effectively rigging the criminal justice system against the man whom they hate and they fear. One possible reaction to Trump from his adversaries would have been to emphasize their commitment to rules and norms and do everything they could to buttress them and make the case for them. Instead, they threw out the rule book beginning in 2016 and have pursued Trump according to the ethic that the ends justifies the means. And that consistency, in that consistency, reason and fairness are for suckers. To be sure, this approach has its temptations, especially for people who never particularly cared for process and rules to begin with. But their recklessness has further undermined faith in the system, while the alluring idea that there's a shortcut to diminishing or defeating Trump has so far proved not the case. Alvin Bragg and Judge Merchan have set the new standard for rigging, and nothing good will come from it. You know, when we were talking yesterday, I said, what really is interesting here is there seemed to be no effort to hide the rigging. And this, you know, I look, I know what Bragg's doing, and we, as I said yesterday, we've dealt with dirty prosecutors in this country. You've dealt with dirty judges. But the fact is, most dirty judges attempt to hide what they're doing. Merchan did none of that at all. And that's why over the last couple of days, especially yesterday, when you had, you know, the legal analysts out there saying, you know, is he going to go down this road? Is he actually going to do it? He can't do it. He can't do this. He can't. I know Jonathan Turley is one of those people that said, I gave the judge the benefit of the doubt. That's gone now. And I think it's important to remember that so many of the legal analysts out there that have criticized us and just been absolutely in disbelief of the bluntness, of the bluntness, of the crookedness of Judge Merchan have been Democrats who and others who oppose Donald Trump. But that was the amazing thing yesterday. If you listened to the show yesterday, I was probably quite animated because that was the shock that not only did he do it, but there was no shame in letting the entire world know this trial is a complete sham. And so, even over the last few hours, paying attention to what the other side was saying, nobody could explain it. In fact, let me find I think it's Turley here that I have in an audio cut that talks about the fact that even afterwards, After the jury verdict, we still don't know what the other crime was. Somebody is found guilty, and we don't know of what. We don't know the specific crime. Here's Jonathan Turley yesterday.
I was saddened to watch it. I disagree with this verdict. I think, as I've said before, that this case was legally unfounded. When they were reading those guilty verdicts, the one thing that we didn't know is really what he was found guilty of. Because if you remember, the judge allowed the jury to find guilt on any one of 3 secondary crimes. We weren't told whether the jury found any one of those crimes, whether they found all 3 of those crimes. I'm not too sure we will know that. That's one of the many issues that I think presents reversible problems in this case. So what I would say is that this is a historic moment. We all have to take a breath. But for those upset by this verdict, remember this remains a country committed to the rule of law. And this is going to go up on appeal. I think it's going to be reversed in the state or federal systems.
One of the things is, you hear a lot of it, and we've talked about it, that, we now live in a banana republic. Well, that's to be seen because the federal courts still haven't got to it, and the people have not yet spoken on it. But I understand the point. Without question, legally, New York is now a banana state. I don't know how anyone goes in. I don't know how any business, large or small business, says, I want to do business with New York State. I told you yesterday about somebody who I know who is in the banking business. Their bank, which is not from New York, will not do business in New York. And this was actually before all of this happened, just because of their business law. And it was fascinating to listen to this person talk to me here in the last week and tell me, nope, we won't do business. And now we definitely won't do business in New York. After the Attorney General and the civil fine against Trump on fraud where there's no victim, we had talked about it. And now here, where somebody is found guilty of basically, fraud again. I can't even explain what he was found guilty of. Fraud in the effort to evade campaign finance laws, where there's no evidence of that at all. It's just a continuation that if you're somebody in big business and you don't hold the right politics, don't go to New York. But when you say, or when we've even said, if he's found guilty, yep, Banana Republic, it is because the entire Democratic Party, and we know Colangelo, who was part of the actual defense team, came from the Department of Justice, that this is coming from the Democrats from a national level. The push to do this, and when you see the agreement, you don't see Democrats coming out and saying, look, I hate Trump, but this is a kangaroo court. You don't hear that happening. And they know it. They know it. They won't say anything. So when you have the other political party in favor of the concept of a banana republic, that's why I can understand why everybody has that point of view that is a supporter of Donald Trump or a conservative and worried about the rule of law. I think I saw, was it Susan Collins, Justin Amash, who else? I'm trying to think of people that just, are, definitely anti-Trumpers come out and say, this is just ridiculous. This is absolutely just ridiculous here. So we've got so much to talk about today. We'll get to your calls and comments if you want to get in. Also look at what is going to happen from this point. Look, now that I've seen a lot of people write, well, he's not going to go to jail. And they won't throw him in jail until it's, to appeal. And the fact is, he may be in jail. What Mershon showed over the last couple of days is he doesn't give a damn if the entire nation knows that he is rigging a court case. that he is not following the law, that he is, as we have stated, Eric and I, over the last couple of days, that he lied to the jurors. And so when you look at all of that, this judge, he may say, nope, sorry, you go to jail now 4 days before the convention. Now, he may be able to get out in a couple of weeks or a month because an appellate court may say, no, he can get bail on this. That could happen, but that's not necessary. There is no guarantee from this point. We're completely, in this country, in uncharted territory. And there's nothing the Democrats would love than to have the Republicans hold a convention and their nominee isn't there to accept it. Now, will it blow up against Democrats? Will this whole thing blow up? We'll get into that and more. If you want to get in, 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. When it comes to truck maintenance, sometimes it's the little things that can cause the most trouble, like cabin air filters. When properly serviced, cabin air filters provide a barrier between pollutants and harmful particles outside and your HVAC system. If you don't pay attention to them, however, this small part can turn into big trouble in no time. Breathe easy when you know which warning signs could indicate that your cabin air filters are clogged. A dirty, musty smell throughout the entire cab may indicate your cabin air filters are oversaturated and need to be replaced.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. He has the morning off. I'm Gary McNamara. I am here. The Trump trial is over, found guilty of 34 felonies. Here's Alan Dershowitz. Well, I had Alan.
It's a worse day for America than it actually is for Donald Trump. Don't know what the impact will be on Trump. Don't know what it'll be on his electoral prospects. He's probably not going to get jail time. And if he does, it would be stayed pending appeal. I don't know whether the case will be reversed on appeal. Sir, I don't think it would be reversed by the appellate division. These are judges who are terrified of being perceived of as helping Trump in any way. Don't know whether or not the New York Court of Appeals in Albany will have the ability to not consider the impact it will have on individuals as judges. Surely the Supreme Court wouldn't, but that's a way off, and there wouldn't be a decision by the Supreme Court probably before the election. This is still the weakest case I've ever seen in 60 years. The fact that the jury convicted based on false instructions, wrong instructions, based on the jurors having been between 85 and 90% picked from a veneer that hates Trump and doesn't want him to be president. The fact that the jury convicted doesn't make this case any stronger or any better. I was recently, just 15 minutes ago, on with the Times of London, and they were saying, well, doesn't the fact that the jury convicted prove that it was a strong case? No, it proves that it was a case that was brought in a jurisdiction where a conviction was almost assuredly guaranteed.
There you go. We'll have more from Dershowitz coming up. And understand Dershowitz, again, not a Trump fan, would never vote for Trump, one of the most well-known liberals in the United States over the last 40 years, but somebody who is a constitutionalist. And so I'm glad he said it, the false instructions. The judge lied to the jury. And I think that word should be used. But Dershowitz is the first one where he said, where I've heard him put it that way, the judge gave them false instructions. That means the judge lied to the jury about this case.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I am here, and Eric is not this morning. I can guarantee he wishes that he was here. Let me play some more audio cuts. This is Scott Jennings on CNN last night.
Well, if my phone and the text messages I'm receiving are any indication, every Republican in the country is madder than a wet hen. I mean, people who are decidedly non-MAGA, not Trump fans, are blowing up tonight saying this case never should have been brought. This is ridiculous charges. It was egregious use of the criminal justice system. And I mean, I'm hearing people say, I had no intention of voting for Donald Trump, and now I am. And then if you ask the Trump campaign what's happening, you know, they literally broke their online donation portal because people were rushing to the internet to give them money in the minutes after the verdict. So I think there's a real chance here. This is going to massively backfire on the Democrats and help Donald Trump.
Look, I'll say this, and again, everything is speculation because we're in completely uncharted territory. The country has never dealt with anything like this ever. So people will say, here's what's going to happen. Like I was some Republicans saying, look, they're not going to jail Donald Trump before the election. I don't know that. After you saw the bias of Judge Merchan, after you saw the fact that he lied about the case to the jury and they followed him right down that path. After you see the unbelievable the fact that he gave them three sort of generic choices to pick of what the crime was, and none of them had to be unanimous. And as Jonathan Turley said, we still don't know. Trump's been found guilty, and we still don't know of what. We don't know what Trump has been found guilty of when it comes to the elements of the actual crime. I'm trying to think that the last time that's ever happened in American history. And that's why, Dershowitz said, I've 60 years I've been doing this. Never seen anything like this. Nothing comes close. Worst court decision ever. And, that's where we are. Let's head to some of your calls and comments. We go to Henry in Arizona. Henry, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Thanks very much. Love your show.
Thank you.
What strikes me is the fact that Trump was found guilty on all 34 charges. That suggests to me that the jury did not understand a single one of the judge's instructions, and out of frustration, they probably threw up their hands and said, hell, let's just find him guilty on
No, I would completely disagree with that, Henry. I think they understood what the judge was saying all the way, which is why they found him guilty, because the judge was leading them all down the path that he was guilty. The judge allowed over and over again for the prosecution to say that Trump committed an illegal campaign violation. When the defense attempted to bring in a former Federal Elections Commission head to say, no, none of this violated the law, the judge wouldn't allow that to be said. And so the jury followed the exact path that the judge had laid out for them. It was completely the opposite of what you're saying. I don't know how you come to that conclusion if you've been paying attention to this at all, that it was obvious. And that's the thing with this judge. That's why everybody, when the judge finally did the instructions yesterday, you had legal analysts that were like, my God, you can't do this. You can't sit there and say you get to choose from three crimes. None of them really defined where the elements of the crime are listed. And we still don't know today. And then the judge gave them the ability to say you don't have to be unanimous on one crime. You can have three people believe that this, 3 people believe this, 4 believe this, 4 believe that, and that's enough. Or I guess they use the 4-4-4. You can have 4 believe this theory, 4 believe this theory, and 4 believe this theory. So right now, we don't know. We don't know the elements of what Trump, the elements of the crime from the jury after the decision. We don't know what it is. That is unheard of, probably in American jurisprudence history. Let us go to Jerry in Glendale, Arizona. Jerry, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Yes. Hi, Gary. Now that Trump has been convicted, what do you think is the chance that these lawsuits will be refiled again to remove him off the ballot? And I'll just hang up and listen to your response. Thanks.
Oh, you mean from the states?
Yeah.
Yeah, that there is nothing. They have no. The states don't have the jurisdiction over that. Trump can.
Very much.
Yeah, there's nothing that says Trump can't run. So if they filed the lawsuit, that would be stayed, and by the time the Supreme Court heard that, and probably that'd be another 9-0 vote, as it was last time. Because you're talking about the individual states, not a federal lawsuit. But if the individual states did it, number one, there would be a stay put on that, and you wouldn't hear that before the election. So the problem is, as I think as Dershowitz said, when you have the state appellate court, they're not going to reverse it. They're not going to reverse it. They're all in agreement with get Trump no matter what. And so the only recourse you have, and again, I heard a lot of it yesterday and the day before, and then everybody seemed to be quiet on it, that he should appeal directly to the Supreme Court because this involves a presidential election. And I didn't hear as much talk. And again, I don't know there is no precedent on any of this. So you don't know. And that's what we're going to be dealing with all throughout this summer and into the fall, is you don't know what the reaction is going to be. But I do believe, what the reaction of the public is going to be when it comes to election time. I will agree, though, I did see, and again, it's all anecdotal evidence, and that doesn't mean anything. It'll be interesting to see what the polls are. Now, the poll that was taken Thursday before it showed, one of the polls showed that independents favor Trump, the biggest lead he's ever had in independents. But when you look at this actual case, Americans understand what's fair and what is not. The significant portion of Democrats don't care. But I think that what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of fear of Republicans, and I think you're seeing that already, who don't like Trump. Because think about this. Where is Trump a radical? People say, well, Trump is a radical. He's a right-winger. No, he's not. Trump is extremely moderate. Trump was, thinking of bringing, saw this story yesterday, Elon Musk in. Now, Elon Musk, on some things, censorship, may be more moderate, but he's a liberal. Trump is not a radical. And that's what Republicans should fear. This was never just about Trump. It's about the Republican Party. It's about the Democrats. And now that they've succeeded here, they will do it again. And it will be someone else in the Republican Party because they're all smiles. They don't care that what happened here was completely unconstitutional. They don't care. All they know is they don't believe that they can win on the issues. The American public looks at where they stand on the issues, and they say, you guys are the radical. You guys, excuse me. The public looks at the Democrats and say, you guys are the radicals here. The Republicans are not on the issues. And by the way, all the polling shows that. I mean, it's absolutely dominant poll numbers on all the major issues that Americans care about. They side with the Republicans. So the only thing that they can get, that they believe they can get, is to continually repeat over and over again, President Trump, a convicted felon, on every single newscast from now on. Here's the problem with that. Again, we're in uncharted territory. How would the public respond? Well, let's put it this way. When you think about it, nobody talks about Trump and impeachment anymore. Everyone thought by this time that when after Trump, the second time was impeached, that, okay, it's a double impeachment. The public will never support him again. Well, Democrats destroyed the impact of impeachment because people viewed that the impeachments were bogus. Who's to say the public isn't going to have the same? In fact, this is even more terrorizing because impeachment, was never removal from office. Impeachment has become, because of the Democrats, it's become censuring. It's a censure of a president, which means nothing. But this is about convicting Trump and putting him in jail. And that's why I say to those Republicans out there saying, well, the judge won't put him in jail. I mean, he has no bail right now. That this judge was so blatantly biased and so blatantly let the entire American public know that he was lying to the jury about the law. If he would do that, after I saw how blunt this crooked rogue judge was when the orders finally came down, or the instructions to the jury came down, Democrats would love it. 4 days before the convention, he puts Trump in jail. Trump may file an appeal to an appellate court, but that could take weeks. They could keep Trump from campaigning completely, and they would love it. They're not thinking that they may lose the election because of it. Understand how Democrats think. They think revenge. They think emotionally. They don't think logically. Oh, my evidence? You want my evidence on that? Really? You want my evidence? The radical transgender movement. A man can be a man a man can be a woman because a man says he's a woman. And if you don't agree with it, then that's hate speech and you should be in jail. That's how we know. They think emotionally. They're full of rage. They're full of anger just because you oppose them. Because as we said on the issues, Donald Trump is not a radical at all. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. They could the judge, as we were talking about earlier, it could be jail, it could be probation, could keep him off the campaign trail. There's a number of things that they could do. I'm sure the judge. Well, the judge didn't weigh how people are viewing this trial to begin with, so they don't care. There's, like I said, a number of things they could do to keep him off the campaign trail after July 11th. So that's the probably the concern of some Republicans out there. Who knows? Like I said, who knows? I guess Biden, they reversed course because all the media reports was he was going to give a speech afterwards and probably thought better not to. But coming up following the top of the hour, we will get to Senator Ted Cruz. We'll have more audio cuts coming up, more analysis of where this whole thing is going, because we're in uncharted territory. That's the one thing I can say over and over again. nobody has any idea where this is going to go now. All I know is New York. New York might as well be gone. What business wants to go to New York anymore after this? Who wants to invest in New York after this? Just amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I can't emphasize enough, and I had said this yesterday, which is why I was so angry yesterday, because I knew after the judge's instructions there was no chance of acquittal, and there was no chance. Most likely, I said maybe you could get a hung jury with one juror, but the bluntness of the corruption of this judge, where he didn't care if everybody knew that he was corrupting this case. That's the part that I just shake my head.
Our news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. You and me are here. Trump found guilty on all 34 counts yesterday. Let's go to Senator Ted Cruz on Newsmax last night.
Well, Greta, I have two simultaneous sentiments. Number one, I'm angry, I'm furious. And number two, I'm heartbroken. I'm angry because we're seeing a grotesque abuse of the justice system. It is a travesty of justice that has unfolded in New York. And I'm heartbroken because the rule of law matters in America. You and I both have spent our adult lives fighting to defend the rule of law, and we have a justice system that is supposed to ensure equal justice under law for everyone. Today, the New York justice system made itself a global laughingstock. This was a political decision that every banana republic in the world recognizes, and they know exactly what this was. This was partisan Democrats lashing out at their political opponent. And I got to say, Greta, I held out hope that on a 12-person jury there would be one who would hold out and say, I will not participate in this fraud. I will not participate in this political attack. And sadly, there was not even one.
What about, we weren't able to watch this. There are no cameras in the courtroom. I realize it's a state court. States get to decide what they want. Federal courts get to. But in your mind, should cameras be in the courtroom? Because, the American people don't get to see what goes on when there aren't those cameras.
I think there really should have been cameras in this courtroom in particular to see the absolute abuse of power from this trial judge. This trial judge, I think, has diminished the credibility of every judge in America. Because, look, when you go into a courtroom, God forbid you go into a courtroom as a criminal defendant or you go into the courtroom as a civil litigant, you expect the judge to be fair. You expect the judge to be impartial. You expect the judge to follow the law. This judge was a partisan. He should have worn a Biden campaign hat while he sat at the bench. His rulings were absurd. I got to say, those jury instructions, it was obvious he had one objective, and it was to get Donald Trump. Now, that's not a judge's job. It does ensure reversible error, and I believe this decision will be reversed on appeal. I think it is a certainty that it will be reversed on appeal, but I think in all likelihood that will happen after the election. And the entire purpose of this sham prosecution was the two words you read right before you had me on. You read Joe Biden's campaign statement, and with words that surprise nobody on planet Earth, they refer to Donald Trump as a, quote, convicted felon. You and I are going to hear those words repeated by Democrats and the corporate media about 1 billion times between now and Election Day. That was the whole point, is to scream felon, 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 felon. This was politics and not law.
And that's true. Now, the only point is, will it work? This week you'll hear it. I never thought that impeachment would be watered down to where it is today, where it doesn't mean anything. Because they look at what happening, it doesn't mean anything. Those were bogus impeachments. Both of them were. And so, at that, at that particular point, that the bar has been moved. Has the bar been moved where people look at this and it is so obviously, we bring that poll from about a month ago, really before this trial got into it, and before you saw the unbelievable bias of the judge, because really where you saw it, you saw it throughout the trial, where he wouldn't let obvious witnesses who should be allowed to testify about what federal election law is. And, that's one of the reversible errors there, I believe. And that's where the, there was no federal election law broken. It's impossible. You couldn't have had a federal election law broken because Trump, the actual paperwork that they looked at that they claim was fraud and therefore could be tied to a campaign violation was done in 2017. You're not trying to win an election. That was the whole intent. He's trying to win this election, and that's why he's keeping it quiet. He wants to keep it quiet to win the election. Well, when he put attorney fees on, that was done in 2017. He was already president. So you can't make that case. And so that's what to me, it was the bluntness of the judge, because that was the signal he sent to me. I want all of America to know that I'm a crooked judge. That's what Merchan did. And that's why that's when everything exploded, when the jury instructions came out, where everybody was like, are you kidding me? 866-90-RED-EYE, if you would like to get in. Let's head back to you. We go to Nick in Los Angeles. Nick, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi, Nick.
Yeah, hi, Gary. How's it going?
Very good. What's up?
Yeah, good. So here's my point. I'm an attorney out here in California, and here's what I would do if I was the Trump team. I would, what I would do is file, the Supreme Court's going to rule before June 30th on the immunity. So if they rule that he had immunity, it's actually a good thing that he filed his expense report in 2017, because that would be an act as president. So as an act of president, he'd be immune from any criminal prosecution related to that. So what the team should do is file a federal case in a friendly jurisdiction, because the Democrats do the same thing, and ask for a writ of mandamus, which is basically asking for a court order for the court to do something, that you're requesting.
But you've got you've got the precedent wrong. If they say that, they're not going to say that he has. Well, I mean, I don't know what they're going to say now, because they may be looking at it here, and they may completely change where they were going on presidential immunity. But you don't currently have presidential immunity for any. If you commit a crime while you're president, you don't have immunity from prosecution after you're out of office. You have immunity for your official duties and things and parameters around the official duties. That's how it's been viewed in the past. The what?
Right, but the act would have been in 2017.
Doesn't matter. The act was personal. The act was he was paying.
It was federal election related to the president.
No, it's not. Well, wait a minute. Hold it. Maybe you have a point here. His act was not, in his opinion or our opinion at all, anything to do with campaign finance law. because it was personal. He was paying his personal. It had nothing to do with the campaign. It was his own money. He wasn't using campaign money. But the prosecution is claiming it was a campaign. But the thing is, though, that's part of the campaign. It's not a part of his official duties.
Okay, maybe. I mean, that would be the issue.
Yeah,
but,
the campaign is not. Yeah, the campaign is not a part of your official duties as president.
Right. Okay. Oh,
So-
that's where I was coming from. So.
Okay, yeah. So you had me going for a second. I go, maybe is there this loophole because of what they did? And I realized no, because still a campaign finance violation is not in your official duties. Where it has been traditionally, what the thought process has been is that if you go, like when Obama, I think it was in Yemen, when he sent some cruise missiles over there and killed Americans, there were Americans that wanted to sue him. And it's like, sorry, you can't do it. You can't do it because that was an official act as president. But your campaign is not an official act as president. So I don't think that would be a go at all. But as I've said yesterday, is the Supreme Court looking at this and saying a president, because an ex-president needs immunity from prosecution? I think it was Kevin O'Leary. We talked about this yesterday from Shark Tank, who said, we got to find a way to give all presidents presidential immunity now, except for maybe murder or some type of violent crime. Because now the door's been open that we can make up a crime. We'll get a rigged prosecutor, a rigged judge. We'll do these trials in an area that is so blue. The judge will lie and give false information to the jury. And we can stop a whole ton of campaigns. Doesn't matter whether you've done anything wrong or not, because the president didn't do anything wrong, illegal here. So it doesn't matter whether you do anything illegal or not. We'll just make it up. We'll take a legal act and make it illegal. Well, how do you stop that from happening? The only way you can stop that from happening is to give every single ex-president immunity from prosecution for things that they do even outside of the realm of being president. Because tell me a worse time in American politics than right now, than what happened yesterday. Tell me a worse time. Tell me something that's going to divide the nation probably as much as anything since the Civil War. Because this is a banana republic. Because of what happened. It may not be when the federal courts get to it. You still have the courts and you have the people that still haven't spoken on this. But you've got a national Democratic Party that's all backing on this. Remember, the Department of Justice left his job to go prosecute Trump on this, to work with Bragg's team. We all know the Democrats are in favor of this. They're in favor of a banana republic. They're in favor of not following the law. They don't believe in the Constitution. And so will the Supreme Court look at it and say we need to expand immunity for ex-presidents? And the thing is, you have liberal judges that will do this. I said this the other day, and someone said they disagreed with me on it. I said, well, I'm just telling you, conservative judges, constructionist judges who believe in the Constitution aren't going to do this. Only rogue judges will. That's the problem. Constructionist judges who believe in the Constitution, in all likelihood, no matter what, are not going to do it. You may find a prosecutor who will do it. You're probably not going to find many judges who will do it. But Merchan doesn't care about his legacy because, again, I see it most likely that this will be overturned, probably by the Supreme Court, but that could be a year from now. I don't believe that the state appellate court will reverse it. They just won't. They're in a Democrat state. They don't care about the law. They just don't care about the law. They don't care about the Constitution. They wish to change it. We brought this up yesterday. They wish to change the Constitution. They don't believe in the First Amendment. They don't believe in freedom of religion. They don't believe in freedom of speech. They don't believe in the Second Amendment. They don't believe in the separation of powers. I mean, they may come to learn the separation of powers here in the Trump case eventually. 866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company. But there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has a morning off. I'm here. We'll get to your calls and comments. More audio coming up. We have some from, Jonathan Turley and Andrew McCarthy on together last night. And for some reason, what I was looking for has disappeared. I was reading don't know what happened to it. My computer is going crazy. Oh, here it is. Former Representative Jason Chaffetz. I think he's a Fox News contributor now. Trump guilty verdict reveals a Democratic Party that will do almost anything to win, just as Democrats' efforts to snooker the public on the state of the economy are failing. Their efforts to gaslight them on the merits of the Trump verdict also will fail. We've talked about the obvious gaslighting. There isn't a person out there that doesn't know that this administration is pathological liars. Will they also understand it when it comes to the Trump the Trump trial? One of the things that was really interesting is he writes here, he said, for those closely following the trial, the injustices inflicted by the prosecutors and the judge were so transparent, it was easy to believe that there must be at least one juror who would see through it. But with Judge Merchan's prosecution-friendly instructions, the 12 jurors could basically find Trump guilty based on the vibe of Trump. And this is true. Merchan told them they could make decisions without proof. He advised the jurors that one could infer that it had been raining by seeing a wet umbrella, even if they didn't actually see the rain themselves. Remember that explanation that he had for that? That just blew up. Everybody was going, what in the hell does that mean? In other words, if you think Trump seems like a criminal, you don't have to have proof. And they didn't. The problem for Democrats is that the jury instructions and a host of other due process challenges with the trial are easy for the public to see and understand. It was a blatant effort to steer the outcome in favor of Democrat prosecutors, just as their efforts to snooker the public on the state of the economy are failing. Their efforts to gaslight them on the merits of this verdict will fail. Even for people who don't have strong affinity for Trump, there remains a strong penchant for a fair justice system. I will say that yesterday I did see more. Now, it's anecdotal evidence. But I got to tell you, when I saw, Susan Collins, when I saw Justin Amash, a former representative, not a Trump, neither Trump fans at all, come out and say, just horrendous. Robert Kennedy Jr. said we're a banana republic. It's like, whoa. That they're afraid that they can't beat him at the ballot box, so we'll become a banana republic and we'll just, beat him at a trial. More coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And welcome to the show, 866-90 Red Eye. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. He returns for Sunday night, Monday morning show. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Well, you had both Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Turley on Fox News last night. Here's part of the conversation on the trial.
You made a point that the follow-on or bump-up crime to make this a felony was never specified in the jury return that came in the actual verdict itself. Although you just heard Alvin Bragg say that this was he was convicted on essentially a conspiracy to subvert democracy. So who's right here? What was Trump actually convicted of by a unanimous jury?
Well, the charges in the indictment, and I guess formally what will go down in the judgment of conviction, are, as you said, Laura, 34 counts of falsification of business records with fraudulent intent to conceal another crime. That sounds dry. What was pitched to the jury, and was really pitched by Bragg publicly in a very peculiar way from the day the indictment was returned, was this basically a scheme to steal the 2016 election. I sort of stumble over that because what's amazing to me about this is Bragg is an election denier, and he wears it like a badge of honor, even as election denial, we're told, is like the worst thing that you can be in public life. I guess it depends on which election it is. But the reason I say it was very peculiar for day one is usually the prosecutor has the narrative that you want to present to the jury in the indictment. It becomes the framework that you plead the charges in. In a very strange way here, the grand jury returned a fairly bare-bones indictment which just laid out the statutory elements of this business records crime. And coterminously with that, Bragg put out on his own, not through the grand jury, what he called the statement of facts, which was this narrative about basically Trump defrauding the United States out of what would otherwise have been the delight of having the Hillary Clinton presidency. And I don't mean to be too snarky about it. You just need to read it. That's basically what it says. And it relies explicitly on inadmissible evidence against Trump. It relies as a bedrock matter on this idea that Michael Cohen pled guilty to campaign finance violations, and therefore the fact that there was this conspiracy to violate the campaign laws and thereby suppress politically damaging information was like an established fact. And that's certainly how Judge Merchan treated it.
Well, Jonathan, if that's the case, why did Judge Merchan not allow the former FEC commissioner to testify? If this was such an open and shut case of election interference that was aided and abetted by this so-called falsification of the business records by Trump, even though he didn't personally do that, then why not let the jury hear about what the FEC really was thinking on this matter?
Well, Laura, the problem that I saw in that ruling is not that he said that it is his responsibility to say what the law is. That's true. It's up to the trial judge to give those instructions. The problem is that he never gave the instructions. That is, the instructions he gave did not go into any meaningful detail on what would constitute a federal election offense. It had some information, but it was incomplete. And that's why the defense wanted to bring in a legal expert. One of the most telling things that that expert would have brought in, Smith, is he said, look, not only is hush money not a campaign contribution, that's been long established, but even if it were a contribution, it couldn't have been part of a conspiracy to influence this election because it wouldn't have had to been actually revealed until after the election. So that's just a matter of dates. That's a matter of filings that are in the regulations. It's not a matter of interpretation. The jury was never told that. So the jury heard, because Judge Mershon allowed them to hear, the prosecutors state over and over again that it was an established fact that election violations occurred here and that Trump ordered those violations. That included in the closing argument, and many of us were mystified because the judge had given an instruction that Cohen's plea agreement could not be used to impute the guilt of Trump. And then Steinglass, the prosecutor, repeatedly did that, and Judge Mershon would do nothing about it. That's the reason I don't blame this jury. What they heard in that room and the instructions they were given, probably to some of them made it look like they had no choice but to convict. And that's the problem.
There you go. And as we said, that's where we talked about the fact that the judge, and it's not false, the judge knowingly lied to the jury in order to convict Trump. He lied to the jury. That's why this is such an abomination. They just laid it out. And I dare any Democrat to debate what they just said. They sat in the trial. They knew what was going on. These are two people, by the way. Turley we know Turley's a lifelong Democrat. He's not going to vote for Trump. Not sure whether Andrew McCarthy is a Republican or a Democrat, but I know he will not vote for Trump. So both are not Trump supporters. They're simply looking at the legal aspects of this, and both of them are completely blown away by this. And then add Dershowitz on top of it. Dershowitz, never seen anything like it. Well, I like what Turley said. We played it on yesterday's show, where he said, not only have I never seen this, I've never read anything like this kind of trial before. That's the thing that I think got to me yesterday when I was sort of losing it, is just how blunt the judge wanted to send the message to the American public that I'm as corrupt a judge as you can possibly find. With those, that's my opinion. That's what he was communicating to the public. I am corrupt, but we know the country doesn't care if I'm corrupt, if I lie, if I don't do my job as a judge. The public doesn't care because they hate Trump as much as I do. That's what those jury instructions communicated to me, and they were so obvious. It was like he's not even trying to hide it or sugarcoat it in any way. He wants the American public to know that I'm a corrupt judge, and in New York, we're corrupt. And we hate Trump, and we are a banana state. And I want to be involved, and I want you to know that I want to be involved in election interference, and that I don't give a damn about anybody's constitutional rights. All I care about is getting a guilty verdict on Trump. Let's head to you. We go to Wade in Vancouver, Washington. Wade, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Thank you very much.
You're on the air.
Okay, so in my opinion, the Supreme Court does have jurisdiction. Part of this case has to do with a quote-unquote federal crime that you would have to commit a state crime, and in order to get the felony, you would be committing a federal crime. And that would, in my opinion, that would allow the jurisdiction to be in the Supreme Court.
Did you get the opinion that I was saying that isn't the case, that the Supreme Court doesn't have a role in this if it gets up to them?
No, but I really haven't heard anybody talking about that.
Well, because you don't need to
step in right now.
Because you don't need to go that far. In any
But
local,
why not?
because in any doesn't need to be a federal crime. It's if your constitutional rights were violated. If you didn't get due process, it's a federal issue, even if it's a state court or a local court.
But couldn't the Supreme Court step in now and shortcut this all?
We don't know. That's the whole point. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We've never been here before. So as we've talked about, both Dershowitz and Mark Levin, a part of our company, and we're fans of his. We know he likes our show, and but they both said that he should go directly to the Supreme Court, and I think to expedite it by saying, look, they did this, and this is a crooked judge and a crooked prosecutor, and they did this so I cannot campaign in a federal election, in a presidential election, and this has such serious national consequences for the history of the United States and for the presidency of the United States that you need to get involved now. Now, whether they will now or later, I don't know, but whether it's a federal crime or not a federal crime, it is under the jurisdiction of the federal courts if the state courts don't handle it.
And I do believe that we need to do something with the immunity, because when Hillary was in trouble, politically, everybody forgave her because it was in the middle of election back then.
Immunity never applied to Hillary, presidential immunity, because she was...
I mean immunity for the future, so we're not a banana republic.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to look at that. That would be fascinating. We had brought it up because Kevin O'Leary, and thank you so much for your call, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank brought it up. He said, look, part of the presidential immunity exists. It exists so you can't do this. But nobody ever thought. That's the thing. Democrats have taken it to a new level. They've taken lawfare to a new level where they'll make up a crime. Nobody saw that one coming. Nobody saw that. So the traditional, when you look at it, how the Supreme Court has looked at it in the past, is you have immunity from your official duties as president with a parameter around that, where if it's something that is an offshoot of because of what you have done as in your official duties as president, you have immunity. But now the Democrats have set the new standard. We'll make up crimes. We'll have a kangaroo court. We'll have a rogue judge. We'll have a crooked judge, a crooked prosecutor, and we'll now target presidential elections. And the Supreme Court may look at that and say, okay, maybe we need to expand it. I don't know. I just don't know. We're in new territory. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Let's go to Dean in Rochester, New York, about the Trump trial. Dean, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for taking my call. So I've come to this idea in America, nothing has to be right or wrong. We just have to be loud and convincing. So I wonder if the idea of Joe Biden pardoning Donald Trump around July, let's say Donald Trump gets a prison sentence, and then he comes out with the typical, we're going to unify the country and put this behind us. He never gets to the Supreme Court, so nothing has to be said about it anymore. And you fast forward through the campaign season, and you get to the debates, and he says, well, are you going to vote for someone who's been convicted, impeached, sentenced for president, or are we going to go in a different direction? So it's almost as if the idea makes some sense. With the independents that aren't concrete, I always think of that guy that you said Obama was a moderate. And I think of that guy as an independent who would see Biden pardoning Trump and actually moving him back towards him, saying, see, he's actually, for the country, he's trying to unify and he's doing the right thing. He's not that crazy like the really ultra left.
Well,
the ultra left already doesn't care.
Well,
right? They're going to vote for Biden anyway.
Right. First thing is, we had a discussion on this the other day. If they could, if
I missed it too. I got to go back to hear that.
Well, we talked about the whole pardon thing. Number one, Trump was convicted in a state court. The state really cannot convict on a federal charge, which is one of the reasons that this thing could be overturned. Okay. But we don't know if they convicted on a federal charge because he gave them a ton of different possibilities of what to choose from and wasn't specific. We still don't know what the crime is, the specific crime that Donald Trump committed after a jury has found him guilty of 13 felonies. We still don't know. But if it's a state crime, which it has to be because you can't do it for a federal crime, then Biden could not pardon him. And also, if it was a federal crime, Trump could refuse the pardon. You don't have to accept a pardon. So and we'll get into more of that coming up here, right?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. He will be back Sunday night, Monday morning. And I'll just say at midnight, I'll just say, Eric, go. Because he'll have everything pent up from the last couple of days. Go. I'll just sit back. I may go into the refrigerator on Sunday night and find a couple of those beers that are in there. And just sit back and go, okay, Eric, go. To the last caller, when you talk about a pardon, the entire thing of the premise of the trial was the fact that Trump committed the business fraud. Actually was personal, though it wasn't. It was a personal attorney, and a non-disclosure agreement. Is that a business agreement? Is that a personal agreement? That was never really. From what I could see, that was not really ever, nobody ever came to a conclusion of it. It was, I guess they technically call it business fraud because it's a business relationship you have even with your personal attorney. But it was business fraud in order to hijack and steal the 2016 election. That was the whole concept behind it. So there's where you get into the whole thing of, well, okay, but you can't judge. You're a state court. You can't make that case. You can't make that leap and say that a state law was violated, and since that state law was violated in order to break a federal law, that ups it to a state felony. And so from what I get, if Biden came back and wanted to pardon Trump, the thing would be, well, there is no federal violation here. It is a state violation. And that's why we had earlier when the guy called and said, well, SCOTUS can look at it because it was a campaign, campaign violation, which would be a federal law. No, the SCOTUS can look at it because, and I'm not sure how they would view it. Nobody understands it because we still don't know. That's the problem with this case. We still don't know what the elements of the crime was that the jury convicted Trump of. We don't know. Nobody knows. So we're all playing this game back and forth, trying to speculate, and it's just dumb. But Trump could, if Biden was going to pardon him for a federal law violation, Trump could refuse the pardon. Say, nope, I don't want it. Because, as we read the other day, a pardon implies guilt. When you accept the pardon, you imply that you were guilty. And there's no way Trump's going to do that. If Biden could even pardon him for that, because I believe the state would say, well, no, it's a state crime, not a federal crime. But it's a state crime to, golly, God, this is complicated. It's a state crime to break a state law in order to evade a federal law. Now, they didn't have the evidence that he did either, but it doesn't matter. That it is a state law. It's a state felony because he got convicted of a state felony, not a federal felony. And so, from what I can see, Biden couldn't pardon him. The other day when we were talking about it, we didn't know where they were going. Were they going to try to convict him of a federal felony? Because this is such a bizarre case. And at that point, we said, well, even if Biden tried to pardon him, Trump could refuse it. We looked at all different avenues. Now, if he was sentenced to 10 years in prison, Biden could commute that sentence. If it was a federal violation, it doesn't look like, I'm guessing that's not what it was about. But again, I'm saying guessing because we don't know the elements of the crime. Because the jury was able to pick from 3 and not be unanimous on any of them. So we really don't know what Donald Trump was convicted of. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. I feel like I'm doing a calculus problem. Yeah, but a calculus problem does have an answer. I want to go to, this is on Jesse Waters last night. Trump lawyer Todd Blanche was on. Here's what he had to say.
They're laughing, Todd. They're laughing. How does that make you feel?
Listen, they won today. They won today, and they're having their celebration, I'm sure, right now, and I suppose they're entitled to do that. I guess the way I would say about how it makes me feel is it kind of confirms the point in many ways, right? So the point that we've been saying, that this is not fair, this is not what this country should be doing to its political leaders, past and present. And then when you see it happen and when you see it celebrated and you hear laughter from the reporters at somebody who's just been convicted of 34 felonies, and I've said this in the trial, but it's true. President Trump is an amazing man. He's president, he's running for president, and he has a public persona. He's also a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a friend to a lot of people. And so when you see that happen to him, and I was standing right next to him today, and it's heartbreaking because they're laughing at a man, at a father, at a husband, at a grandfather, and at somebody who's running for president and looks like will win. That's something that people should be troubled with.
Well, understand too, they're laughing because they cheated the system. They're laughing because he's a rogue prosecutor, and they found a rogue judge to not protect the constitutional due process rights of a defendant. That's why they're happy. It doesn't matter whether it's Donald Trump or who it is. They're going to go after any Republican now. It's somebody, I know Dershowitz talked about this the other day. He said, in fact, he said it yesterday, I'd fire the lawyers. One of the things he said is Trump should have admitted that he had the affair. And I had someone that called but didn't stay on the line who said that. That's got nothing to do with it. Doesn't matter whether he did it or not. He would have been convicted. That was not going to make a difference at all. Not with the judge. Not with what the judge did. Wasn't going to make a difference there at all. We're talking about, doesn't matter whether it's like saying, well, you shouldn't jaywalk. That was jaywalking. And now we're charging you with murder. What? What are you talking about? Well, you shouldn't have jaywalked, and you wouldn't have been charged with murder. I won't even say jaywalk, because what the president did, the former president did, was not a crime. And they made up a crime. So that isn't even a good analogy. So they're laughing because they know. They're happy that they violated Trump's constitutional rights, and now they can call him because they live on rage and emotion. And they don't look very far at all. They thought the impeachments were going to do him in. Every time they thought Trump is dead now, Trump is back. And why? Because from what I could see from the polls, at least a couple of weeks ago, the majority of Americans believe, by a pretty big margin, that all of these cases are more political than of substance. Will this change it? I don't know. I have no idea whether this will change it or not. We're in totally uncharted territory here. We'll see, though. 866-90-RED-EYE. Let us go to, we go to Dave in Phoenix. Dave, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for taking my call. I really enjoy the show.
You're welcome.
I'm 61, and something I learned in life, when you're dealt a hand, you have to play it. I think Trump accepted the cards that were played to him and play it. Get out there, get your message, and go after them.
Well, I think that's exactly what. Is he not doing that? He's done that from the very beginning. Sorry, but your call your call was extremely muffled. So, but if you're saying Trump should go after them, well, are you implying that he wasn't, because he's been doing it since the very beginning? Let's go to Tommy in Oregon. Tommy, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Tommy.
Hello, thank you. So I was kind of shocked that you're so surprised about the judge and the prosecutor, but from the beginning, I always thought they are going to back him no matter what. So if the Republicans go after him, charge both of them with either a state crime, can't the governor pardon them even if they're found guilty? Or if it's a federal crime,
and they're not going to be charged. I never said they were going to be charged with a crime. They're not. I don't believe that the judge will be charged with a crime. He'll be the worst. The worst that would happen to a judge is he would be removed from the bench. But he didn't commit bribery. He simply didn't protect the constitutional rights. And judges have immunity to make mistakes in court, in the process of a court. And they deny people's. You've had judges that have denied people's constitutional rights, and it's been reversed. And so they lose it. They on appeal, and then they may be admonished by the higher court. And if you have the judicial system or the system of judges and the legal system, they may take away his law license. But I don't believe that will even happen. So, no, I'm just talking about the fact that the judge was so blunt in the fact that I'm screwing over Trump, which will make it easier to overturn on appeal, because it was so obvious, the bias of the judge, and it was so obvious that the judge was not protecting the constitutional rights of the defendant. But that happens all the time, but the judges don't end up in jail. I don't believe he'll end up in jail. So that was my point, that he was that they were so gleeful on it. And see that.
They were.
Go ahead.
They were that lenient because they've got backing from somewhere, from the Democrats.
Well, yeah, they got backing.
If they get in trouble, they can get out. They can get them out of trouble.
Yeah, but I didn't. I wasn't saying you're. Okay, I'm done here because we're getting into the minutia of things that don't matter. Appreciate your call. 866-90 Red Eye. Let us go to Warren in Evansville, Indiana. Warren, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Oh, it's great to be in radio right now, huh?
Well, it's always great to be in radio.
I was doing a morning show here in Evansville, Indiana, during Shock and Awe, and that was really intense, but certainly an enjoyable feature in my life. I think they should go after Hochul. Give her a taste of what the Democrats did to the Supreme Court justices, and start protesting around the clock in front of their homes. She would be in the governor's mansion. Maybe you might want to do that to Letitia James. You might want to do it to the DA. You might want to do it to the legislature, to the House Speaker.
To what end?
And just let them have it.
To what end?
I think as governor, she can pardon Trump. She can overturn that.
That won't happen.
And just make her life
very
uncomfortable. I don't know. It won't happen.
That won't happen in a minute. I'm telling you right now. That won't. By the way, I'm very familiar with Hochul because she's from the Western New York area where I'm from. That will never happen in a million years, ever. Now, the protests. Look, the protests are fine. What you need to do is you need to win more elections. Is what you need to do. And you need to explain to the American people, you need to win the message is what you need to do. Now, I've got no problem if people wish to protest, that's fine. I'm not telling people not to protest legally. If that's what they wish to do, fine. I'm just saying what end. And if you believe that protesting Hochul will make it so she will pardon Trump, no. And it doesn't matter. Trump's not going. How many times have we got to say it? We went through this the other night, 2 nights ago. Trump is not going to accept a pardon from Hochul or Biden. He's not going to accept it. As we just said, just 5 minutes ago, if Trump accepts a pardon from Hochul, it's basically an admission of guilt. He's not going to do that. So we're getting into talking about things that really, number one, aren't going to happen, and number two, Trump wouldn't accept to begin with. So there you go. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. I don't. I'm here talking about the Trump trial. Wow. Oh man, just reading this here. Asa Hutchinson, the Republican. It's not easy to see a former president and the presumptive GOP nominee convicted of felony crimes, but the jury verdict should be respected and appeal is in order, but let's not diminish the significance of this verdict. The response is Molly Hemingway. Anyone who supports this destruction of rule of law, as you do here, is to be condemned. Weasel. It's another one. I can't even read these. The other one. Wow. I can't even read these. It's just, 9 out of 10, just blasting him. Just absolutely blasting Hutchison here. Wow. What's the guy who, this is my favorite, the guy who got 191 votes in Iowa says what? Oh, my God. Yeah. Let's head to you. We go to JW in Indiana. JW, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Good day. I think Mr. Hutchinson is living in la-la land. This verdict has effectively destroyed every bit of credibility that remained for the judicial system in this country, at least in my view. I don't know how you even attempt to believe that there's any credibility left to it. And, frankly, the verdict ought to scare everyone out of their minds because it's now, it's a kangaroo system now. And that's what's effectively been pointed out. And it's something that doesn't bode well for any of us. When someone with the power and resources that Trump has can have this happen to him, the rest of us are just living on borrowed time.
I will say this. I mean, this was, again, a New York court. And if you combine it with the Attorney General and her civil suit against Trump, that originally got, $450 million? All of this is insanity. The New York judicial system is now completely corrupt. You can't trust anything. It's run by Democrats, and Democrats clearly don't give a damn about the law. In Democrat states, I think they'll follow it. I think on the federal court level, we have not yet seen this perversion of justice to this level. I'm not saying that there aren't Democrat federal judges that you've got to worry about, but right now with the Supreme Court where it is, we see most things that are unconstitutional from the Biden administration being overturned. In criminal courts, though, when you look at what's going on, I can see this happening in California. I can see something like this happening in Illinois. I don't see something like this holding water in a Florida or a Texas or an Oklahoma or a ton of other states out there. So the problem of where it indicts the entire country is the fact that the whole Democratic Party is for what's going on.
Well, and you make a good point. However, it also can become situational. It's once you get a target on you, the point is,
no, you're right.
We shouldn't even have to have a conversation like this.
You're right.
The fact that we have to have such a conversation indicates the problem.
You're right. Thanks so much. Just out of time.
Get our Red Eye Radio app in your app store. Then listen at your convenience. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Just a couple of comments, JW. We were going into a break there, so I had to let you go. But you're right. The fact that we're having this conversation shows the problem out there. You look at it right now. I would not want to come up before those judges that looked at the civil trial or the. I would not, especially as a conservative talk show host, want to be in that judicial system at all. I would have no confidence in it whatsoever. But where I talked about the fact that the system has not been completely, perverted, a lot of it has, maybe not in judges across the entire country. Maybe it's to a level we've never seen before in New York. I believe that there are liberal judges that would do the exact same. Because remember, when you have liberal justices out there that admittedly, Sotomayor got caught stating it one day when she was talking about making law and went, oops, I'm not supposed to be saying that, not supposed to be caught publicly saying that. She admitted it. Justices at that level, their job, they take an oath to interpret the law, not to make law. She made it clear, we make law. That's what we want to do. That's part of what the Democrats are attempting to do in the federal justice system. But when you look, and we mentioned this overall, the rot and stink in the Department of Justice and the FBI over the last decade and a half that is something that should worry you. The rot and stink of James Comey, who was out last week making the rounds. When we know he lied publicly. He knew that the dossier was bogus. And so when you look at the Department of Justice and you look at Merrick Garland, and you looked at even when Trump was in control, the bureaucracy was loaded with Democrat supporters who didn't give a damn about the law. Think about this. The FBI whistleblowers who came out. Think about this. You had parents at schools that were complaining. Think about this, the system here. What the left believes. Understand how radical they are. By the way, Eric and I have been preaching about this for 20 years, almost 20 years now, and warning that this was coming. But when you see, I mean, you had under this administration parents that were complaining to the school board about men and boys being able to use girls' bathrooms. And after an attack by a transgender on a girl, parents were furious, and the FBI was in the parking lot taking license plates of those concerned parents. So the rot of the Democrats on the federal level is there, and as we now know, on the local level, to places where we never, ever thought they would go a couple of decades ago. I always knew the potential was there because we've been warning for the longest time. It's a couple of people that I've talked to that, and I haven't chatted with Independent Bob about this yet, but other people that over the years I've met that said, well, I'm not like you. I'm not a conservative. I'm an independent, which means I look at both sides of the issue. It's like, shut up. I'm a conservative because I have looked at both sides of the issues. And now a lot of them are like, I can't believe what's going on. Like I said, I can believe what's going on. I've seen it. I've known where they've been going for the longest time. When I talked about the judge, I was just shocked by his bluntness of not caring. I wasn't shocked by what he did. I was shocked by how blunt he was to let the public know, I'm a rogue judge. I'm crooked. I'm not going to defend your constitutional rights. I'm a judge of a kangaroo court. We're not here to protect the rights of the defendant, of the citizen who's been accused by the state. Understand the seriousness of this, whether it was the president or not. You're talking about convicting somebody of a crime that could put them in jail. I have to go with the maximum for 140 years, for life, and we don't know what the crime was. Taking your liberty away from you, taking your life away from you. They're not killing you, but they're taking your life away from you. They're taking away from you your life, your liberty, and they're violating your constitutional rights, and they don't give a damn at all. All they care about is power and control, to the point of being so blunt as to just basically flaunt it in your face. That's what they were doing yesterday. We don't give a damn about the law. All we care about is putting you away and winning elections, and we'll do it any way that we can. I know if Eric was here, he'd probably go back to the late talk show host, liberal talk show host, Ed Schultz, who said one time, do whatever it needs to win. Cheat, lie, do whatever. Well, that's exactly what they're doing right now. Whatever it takes to win. Now, hopefully it won't work out for them, because when we talk about a banana republic, there's still two things standing in their way. There's the federal courts on this issue, and then there's the people of the United States. The people of the United States could do a heck of a lot to overturn the banana republic, the banana state of New York, and the growing mindset to have a banana republic from Democrats. Because the majority of Democrats are in favor of what happened here, and they know it was bogus. Every single one of them knows that that was a bogus trial. That's why they won't discuss the specifics of it. They'll do the generalities. That's it. And there's most serious violation. It was one of the Democrats said this is one of the most serious violations of business fraud in our nation's history. They actually said that. This is how laughable it is. And we all know, every Democrat listening right now to this show, because it means you've been following it with us, you know that what happened was bogus. You know that what happened was a violation of a defendant's constitutional rights. You know it. You know that the judge lied to the jury. You know that when a jury finds somebody guilty and nobody can identify what the crime is, well, it's one of these crimes. We can send him to prison for 140 years because we believe he violated one of these crimes. Well, which crime? Well, we don't know. Well, where was the unanimous verdict on each one of those three possible secondary crimes? There is none. Well, where's the record of what the elements of that crime actually were that they voted on a unanimous way? It doesn't exist. Wow. That's just amazing. And that's where we are right now. But the federal courts and the people of the United States can change that all. The people of the United States can sit there after for so long not taking seriously what the Democrats were doing. And this is just one of the things. Think about this. As we explained yesterday, this open borders, putting the debt that we have on future generations, the inflation that you're feeling today was caused by government policy, defund the police, claiming that all whites are racist culturally, saying that all blacks must think in a particular way and must vote Democrat, that there can be no autonomy of any black person, that they must be lock in step with one party, and if they're not, you race bait them and say they're an Uncle Tom? Defund the police? We can run the grid on solar and wind? I mean, these people, they're absolutely insane. We've been saying it. Eric and I have been saying it. Well, I've been saying it for 35 years. I think Eric's been in talk like 30. Almost 30 years. And most Americans didn't take it seriously. What we would get is, oh, you guys, come on, it's slippery slope stuff. Well, we're at the bottom of that slippery slope now, aren't we? We're at the bottom of the slope. So I'm just referring to that one caller who's like, I can't believe you wouldn't. Oh, no, that's what I wasn't saying what you were saying. What I was saying is I was amazed at how blunt the judge was to let Americans know that I'm a crooked judge. I'm a rogue judge. I don't care about his rights. I don't care about identifying a crime. I just don't care. The bluntness of it. Because you'll have a lot of you'll see Democrats doing one thing and trying to hide it. Biden's a perfect example of it. Mayorkas is a perfect example of it. We open the border. It's complete chaos down there. The border is secure. We talk about this all the time. Democrats do one thing and say another. In this case, this judge didn't. This judge let everybody know, I'm a rogue judge. I don't give a damn about any defendant's constitutional rights. I will violate them. I will help the prosecution with a crime that they can't even identify in order to make this person a convicted criminal, a convicted felon, and at the end of it, nobody can identify what the crime is that got him to the felony. Nobody knows. The jury didn't say. Tell me where that's happened in American history. There have been people that have gotten bad witnesses. Tell me where there is another case where nobody can tell you what the crime is. That's why people are saying, that's why legal experts are saying, this isn't a gray area. This is so black and white, reversible here, because we've never seen anything like this before. The judge is so incredibly rogue, not just a little bit, and trying to hide it. It's like, screw it. I'm out to screw this guy no matter what. And you can't do a damn thing about it. That's the arrogance coming from Merchan. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. Coming up following the top of the hour, more reaction to the guilty verdict against Donald Trump yesterday. It would be interesting to see how much money, like by Monday, how much they raised over the weekend. Trump donation page crashes after the conviction in the Bragg trial. I did see that there was, I think it was, what's his name? The guy that ran for governor. I got mind blank here in New York. Lee Zeldin said he saw $800,000 donation from one person. Another one was a $300,000 donation just from two different people. So I will say this, for the most part, you saw, you have some of the never Trumper Republicans out there, but even many of them were like, whoa. This is ridiculous. Because if any never Trumper believes that the Democrats are going to be their friend and won't come after them in 2 seconds, you see what happens if you disagree at all with them. They wish to come after you. So we will get to that. More audio cuts coming up following the top of the hour. More your phone calls. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. Man, what a day. Not surprised, by the verdict yesterday. I will say this, that I've read some really interesting articles. This one this was actually News Nation before the verdict was in, and it was Trump trial precedent. Will it be open season on candidates? Could local prosecutors charge national candidates on flimsy evidence? Well, they have, and they succeeded. And as crusading DAs might prosecute to become famous, says former deputy AG, And blanket immunity for former presidents is no solution, says defense attorney. Let me just throw you through this. It's not a long article, only a couple of paragraphs, but it's really interesting. Latest update, a jury has found former President Donald Trump guilty of felony charges for falsifying business records in an effort to keep information from voters ahead of the 2016 election. Could the prosecutions of Trump open the floodgates? News Nation's Leland Vivert presented one scenario Wednesday. He said in a few years, this is his scenario, future scenario, in a few years, a rural local attorney in Missouri will figure out that Hunter Biden's consulting company once paid an invoice in his county, giving him jurisdiction. The rural DA will impanel a grand jury. In the 80% red county, the grand jury will indict Joe or Hunter or both Bidens on conspiracy to commit bribery charges. Like the New York case against Trump, it will be mostly smoke and mirrors surrounded by very unsavory activity. I do think it has opened the door now to at least entertaining the possibility, said former Deputy Attorney General Tom Dupree. You look at crusading DAs of a conservative bent wanting to make a name for themselves. It doesn't take a great legal mind to come up with some theory on which you could bring an indictment either against a former president or members of a former president's family. Maybe the charges will stick, maybe they won't, but you'll have made a name for yourself. So how does America avoid endless revenge or ego prosecutions? Said criminal defense attorney San Wu, I don't think there's a legal solution. It would be a very bad solution, in my opinion, to have a legal safeguard such as a Supreme Court saying a former president can never be prosecuted for anything. That doesn't make any sense here. Dupree fears a possibility that along with making a name for themselves, a local prosecutor could affect the national debate by robbing a candidate of time. If that person is running for re-election or running for some office, you keep them off the campaign trail. So let's hope that doesn't become a precedent. I think it's a real dangerous precedent, and it has been set. Well, of course it's been set. What's missing in this article? The rogue judge. In order to get to Trump, you needed a rogue judge. You needed a crooked judge. The prosecutor, if he brought this before a judge who was actually doing their job and being impartial and not violating the constitutional rights of the defendant, who knows how this trial might have come out? So, yeah, I expect that there's going to be rogue DAs out there. And I do see the scenario. There's two differences between Democrats and Republicans. And if you wish to say liberals versus conservatives, that's fine, because all Republicans aren't conservative. But all Democrats right now are basically liberal. There really are no moderate Democrats anymore. Maybe Joe Manchin. But is he moderate or is he just wishy-washy? Fetterman may be getting there. Who knows? But he's not there yet as even a moderate Democrat. But the difference is here, finding rogue judges. There's a difference. We've always said it's wrong, for example, on Supreme Court justices to say, well, he's a conservative judge versus a liberal judge. We've always thought that's the wrong terminology. The terminology would be liberal judges who admit. These liberal judges admit. Sotomayor got caught. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. But she got caught saying, the society doesn't move fast enough, so we are the ones that have to make the law. No, it doesn't work that way. But a liberal judge will think that way. A liberal judge is a liberal judge. They're pushing liberal positions. It's what you heard after the Dodd's decision on abortion. These conservative judges are telling us how to live our lives. No, they're not. I remember the first conversation I had on that. I remember a week after it was passed. I was on vacation. I went into the Marina restaurant right around the corner from where I live. And seen a bunch of my old friends were there. And a bunch of people I didn't know. And so the people that I know started talking to the people that I didn't know and saying, yeah, he's a talk show host. Yeah, he's a talk show host. He's a talk show host. That guy over there, he's a talk show host. He's a talk show host. And immediately, one woman came up to me. She says, so I'm assuming that you think that taking away the rights of my body to control my own body, I'm sure you agree with that. I said, oh, you must be talking about the Dodd's decision. Yes. I said, well, do you know what the judges actually decided? And I said, here's what the judges decided. The judges said that Congress has not defined what life is, when life begins. And that's what the constructionists, the people that believe our job is to interpret the Constitution, not make law, they said, we can't make law. We can't tell you when life begins. It's not up to us to do that. We interpret the laws that Congress has made or what the Constitution dictates, which comes, from the states. The Constitution came from the people. We don't decide it. That Supreme Court that decided Roe v. Wade had no business doing it. That's not their role. The role is for the people to decide. So they didn't make a decision. They simply said that Roe v. Wade is wrong. States should decide. If there's not going to be a federal decision on it that comes through Congress, then state legislatures will have to decide. Oh, because she also threw in the fascist judges. I go, they're the opposite of fascists. The fascists were the ones that created the law without the law existing from Congress. And then we went into the whole thing she said about, protecting, that you have no right, to be involved, in my decisions with my body. I said, oh, then you must be for abortion till birth. Well, no. You think it should be limited? Yeah. Till what? I forgot how long it was, second trimester or whatever. I don't know. It was a number of weeks. I said, well, then you don't believe it's about your body. What are you talking about? You just said sometime in the womb, the government has a right to tell you to stop. I'm telling you, these people don't think. They don't think. Oh. And it was funny because there were a couple of women behind her who I didn't know, but I think they were girlfriends or spouses of of guys I did know. They were back behind her. It was two women like clapping for me going, yeah, like they weren't actually clapping. The hands weren't touching. They didn't want to embarrass their friend in front of them, but basically they were saying, you smoked her. And I said, but, it's not trying to embarrass you. I'm just telling you that, it's what you said. And she was okay with it. She looked at me and she goes, oh, so you do this professionally. It's like, yeah. And every single conversation I had about that, the same thing happened. So that's the problem. Because when we look at, it's not that you're not going to be able to find some rural prosecutor who's conservative that says, I'm going to go after someone. That could happen. But where do you find these rogue judges, these constructionist judges, to simply say, I'm not going to abide by the law at all? I mean, there's a deep belief, the difference between Democrats and Republicans, there's a deep belief in Democrats and liberals that judges should make law. They already disagree with the major tenets of the Constitution. On the other side, you have constructionist, originalist judges that say, it's up to me to interpret the law, not to create law. There's a different philosophical mindset. And so you may be able to find the prosecutor that says, okay, I'm from a rural town in Iowa, and I'm going after Biden. Think about it, because that's what Bragg said. I'm going after Trump. Letitia James, the same thing. I'm going after Trump. They didn't even know what crime they were going after him for. They didn't even know. We're just going to go after him. We're going to put him in jail. They got elected for that, and now we're at where we are right now. I just wonder how the people of New York State feel about it, or the rank and file voter. Can the rank and file this is a question to Democrats out there. Are you okay with kangaroo courts as long as it hits your opposition? Because as I've stated before, where was Trump a radical? What issue is he a radical on? What issue? My point is, it doesn't matter whether you're Donald Trump or any other Republican. Will be used. If it isn't stopped, if there isn't a punishment for it. And the only punishment I can see right now is winning the election. That's the difference. That's what will make it the difference. You lose elections and people get sick of it. But if you're a Democrat voter, are you okay with denying a defendant their constitutional rights of convicting a defendant of a crime when even the jury, nobody knows what crime he was convicted of right now? We don't know. Is that okay with you as long as it's somebody you dislike? Is that how you were educated? Is that how you grew up? Is that what you learned in school? The due process only matters to people that you like? Or due process and the Bill of Rights only applies to people who you agree with politically? Well, if that's how you believe, it's really interesting that it's your party that's calling the other side fascists. And after today, I think it was Lee Zeldin who said, he actually cursed, don't any Democrat ever again say that it's the Republicans who are against democracy. You just proved yesterday you're not for democracy. Because you cannot be for democracy, constitutional republic, I understand. Stop it, nitpickers. You cannot be for a constitutional republic, a democracy, the constitutional republic under the umbrella of a democracy, the general umbrella. We understand, and I understand, and Eric understands, we don't vote for every issue out there. But that's what they're saying, that the Republicans are against democracy. Well, if you believe that it's okay for a judge to be a rogue, crooked judge and deny a defendant their constitutional rights, and then lie to a jury and not follow the law to the point where an ex-president is convicted and nobody can tell you what the specific elements of the crime that he was convicted of. Are you okay with that? Because if you are, then you're the fascists. We do have a line open, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has some morning off. Let's go to Jake in Salem, Oregon. Jake, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate how you guys are bringing up all of the various aspects of this disaster. Look, it isn't good, but a setback can be a setup. If I'm the Trump campaign, I'm putting a poster out that says I'm a convicted felon by a kangaroo court. I'm taking those posters and I'm going to the blue states like the one I'm from, throwing big rallies and showing I've been a kangaroo court by Joe Biden. This is a hornet's nest that they've created, and I don't think it's going to play well for them. I mean, I definitely defer to you guys on this, but I don't think it looks good for the Biden team at this point. And I think Trump's going to get through this and win in the ballot box.
We're in unknown territory, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And I talked about this earlier. You see that in the last year, Biden never brought up the twice impeached Donald Trump because they know it works against them, because the public realizes it, so they don't use it. We're told that they're going to use convicted felon a billion times every time they open up their mouths between now and November. I don't know if that will be effective. That will just remind, because we remember the polling from a month ago, even before we got into the heart of this trial, where the judge made decisions where everybody was questioning it, where it was 57-42. 57% of registered voters believe that all these were political, and 42% believed they were based on substance. Well, that was huge back then.
Could I ask you guys this question? I don't know if you guys have broached on it, but what is going to happen here with Hunter Biden and his little court case? And we can all watch and see what the difference is between how they handle Donald Trump and how they're going to put their kid gloves on the president's son. And I think if they don't do that right, they're going to even have a bigger problem compounded by what they did to President Trump. That's just my thoughts on that, you guys.
I think you're right on that. And you can look, for example, of how they're treating Trump on the classified documents versus how they treated Biden. Well, he's a feeble old man and he can't stand trial and he'll forget stuff. It doesn't wash with the American public, at least the majority of the American public.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. I want to get to this audio here. This was on with Brett Baer last night. You had Jonathan Turley and Trey Gowdy on with them. And Brett Baer asked the question to Jonathan Turley, can this be expedited immediately to the Supreme Court?
Well, I think we're really out of runway needed to appeal this. I think that it'll go to the New York Appellate Court. There could be an effort to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to cut that short. I just don't see the Supreme Court likely granting that type of expedited process any more than they did for Jack Smith. So he's very likely going to be in that New York appellate process for a while. This is a target-rich environment for appeal. Many of us believe there are layers of reversible error here, and in the end, he very well could be vindicated. I think that that's part of what people have to understand. that you can disagree with this decision. I'm disappointed in it because many of us feel this was a legally flawed case and that it was political in its motivations by Alvin Bragg and others. But we are a nation committed to the rule of law. We have ways and people waiting to review this case. I think that review is likely to go in Trump's favor, but it may take a while. It may go into the federal system. But being in that courtroom today, you could feel the weight of history. For a lot of people in that room, it was clearly thrilling. Many of us thought it was a sad moment. It was also a bizarre moment because the judge had basically said the jury could not come to a verdict, and people were leaving the courtroom when the judge basically said, "My mistake, we have a verdict." And there was just an absolute hush in the room, and it changed immediately. Of all the people in that room, the pressure was clearly building, but the one who didn't seem to show it was former President Trump. He didn't show any emotion at all as this mantra of 34 guilty verdicts was heard from the foreperson.
Jonathan Turley yesterday on Fox News, and when he brought that up, what happened to me, I didn't find out about it till later on. As everybody knows, I mean, maybe you don't know, but I sleep twice a day. After the show, I'll go home here at 5 Central Time. I'll be asleep probably by 20 to 6, and then I sleep till I wake up. Sometimes I wake up at 8:15, sometimes 10 o'clock, whatever. Whenever I wake up, unless I have an appointment. Then I go back to sleep anywhere, normally between 5 and 6. Well, yesterday I'd gotten up real early. I had things to do. I only got like an hour and a half sleep in the first shift. That's the beautiful thing about sleeping twice in the day. You can really just take a nap if you want, and then even if you're tired all day, you're going to get your sleep. You don't have to wait an entire day to go back to sleep again. As I've tell everybody, the best thing about sleeping twice a day is being able to sleep twice a day. The worst thing about sleeping twice a day is having to wake up twice a day. But by the time it got to be about 3:30, I'm yawning. I'm like, I got to go to sleep. And I had seen that the original time that they were going to go to was the judge had said like 6 o'clock Eastern. And I'm like, oh, boy, I've got to stay up for over another hour. I don't know, man. And all of a sudden I went to Fox and I go, let me check the updates. Go to Fox News right there. The jury will deliberate for a third day. And that's all I needed to see. I didn't see anything else. I didn't hear what Jonathan Turley was talking about where they said they can't come to a verdict. Oh, we have a verdict. What I saw was, and Fox had it, the lead article, the lead headline was, it'll go to a third day tomorrow. Well, I thought that was it. I went to sleep. And I went to sleep and I said, put on the do not disturb, as I always do. And I don't even remember when I woke up, and I looked and just said, had to check the phone, and that's where I saw guilty, and I looked at the time and went, I don't know, it was like 7 o'clock, maybe 7, something like that. I'm not sure. And I said, I was half asleep. I said, I'm going back to sleep. I'll wake up later on. So that was weird, just for that happening. And I wonder, that's what Fox News, I mean, to sit there and hear the judge say something, and then by the time they print, it's got to be 15 minutes or so. So I thought I was in the clear. All right, go to sleep. And what I was actually thinking? It's a good thing because I can do the first show, whatever the verdict is, or whether it's a hung jury, I can do it with Eric. Because I know it's killing Eric not to be here today. And as I said, Sunday night, Monday morning, the first part of the show, I'm just going to sit back and go, okay, go, Eric. Go ahead. Let people know what you think. All right, let us go to Shannon in Illinois. Shannon, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good.
I had a question. The idea here is we know that the case was brought without probable cause. They had if the statute of limitations has passed, he had no authority to bring the case. Now, the judge knowing that and then continuing with the case, It could be a criminal conspiracy for. It's not kidnapping, but it's unlawful restraint.
No, you can't get there because the reason there were two things. There were two arguments. The one argument was because of COVID, the statute of limitations was extended. The other argument was it's not the COVID argument. It's the argument that since there's another crime, that you're looking for the felony, not the misdemeanor, that tying one crime to the other lengthens the statute of limitations. So, again, there's not going to be any type of criminal conspiracy here against this judge. It's simply going to be that it will be reversed. Now, I don't know. You may have the appellate court. Well, the appellate court won't bash him, but you might have it if it gets up to the Supreme Court that they would do it. But no, it's not. People are asking, is this judge going to face criminal action? No, he will not, unless there would be new information that would come out to find out that he was secretly meeting with Bragg, behind the scenes and communicating with Bragg the entire time. But no, that's not going to happen. Let us go to Wesley in Fort Worth. Wesley, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, I hope I can say what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking, of course, Trump's going to appeal, and I'm almost positive as long as there's an appeal pending, he will retain his right to vote. But if the judge gives him a modified sentence, let's say he sentenced him 20 and 10 years probation or something probation, he can forbid him from seeking or holding public office. Now, with an appeal pending, that might not apply. I'm sure it wouldn't because, I know of convicted felons that were waiting to be sentenced and had appeal pending that voted.
A judge, you can remember the judge doesn't order that. States are the ones, because you mentioned, for example, you can't vote. The judge can't tell you can't vote. The legislature can tell you can't vote. And so there is.
I don't know what the probation conditions would be in New York State, but in Texas, if he is on a felony probation, he cannot vote.
He
can't hold public office.
Well, that may be the state of he can't hold state office, but the Constitution of the United States, there's nothing that says he cannot hold the president of the United States office. There's nothing.
Okay.
Right,
most of the cases I've watched have been in Texas. And I agree everything they done was illegal. I've never heard anything where everybody finds he done one thing, we can find him unanimously guilty on everything. I've never heard of that. I don't.
No, nobody.
You on the radio?
No, I've never heard of it. Alan Dershowitz, the liberal law professor, who said in 60 years he's never seen anything like it. Jonathan Turley, as he said, in all of his years, he's never seen anything like this. It's never existed, and he's never even read about it in fiction. Whether it's a nonfiction or a fiction book, he's never read it. No, this has never happened before, from what we can tell in American jurisprudence, ever. So, that's the thing about this. It's obvious. That's why they talk about reversible error. You hear more legal experts coming out and saying, it's not a gray area. This is totally black and white. You can't do this. Just amazing. Wow. Just amazing. Let us go to Tony in Denton, Texas. Tony, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Tony.
Good morning. The events of the last few days, in my mind, amplify the importance of the vice president, or President Trump's pick of the vice president. My thoughts, or my question to you is, what are your thoughts if, in fact, he may be under house arrest or, God forbid, he's incarcerated, if, in fact, he's elected, if he's incarcerated or under house arrest at that time, and the vice president is plunged into that role immediately? I was wondering what your thoughts might be on that.
Well, if he's president and sentenced, he won't go to jail. If he's president and they said once he becomes president, the system, everything stops.
So if this judge places him under house arrest or whatever he might do, if he is elected as president, everything goes back to
once he becomes he becomes president. But if he's not president, and he's in jail, I don't know what happens at that point. I don't think anybody knows what happens at that point. Now, if he is jailed on, what is it, July 11th? Whatever, if the judge, and I don't know, there's a lot of people saying, well, they're not going to do it because he will file for, and we've got some interference on the call, but I do thank you for your call. There's been some talk, well, they're not going to jail him. And he would be free pending appeal. And if this judge wouldn't give it to him, he'd go to the appellate court, the state court. Look, as I said, this judge was so blunt in letting everybody know, I don't give a damn about the law or his constitutional rights. I'm going to run this and just throw out legal theories that have no precedent and are actually against the law. I'll lie to the jury. I'll do everything. I don't care. This judge, I believe, could jail him. He doesn't care. And I don't know if the judge jailed him, whether the appellate court would overturn it, because that would be the state court. And I don't know what the jurisdiction is of the federal court on that at all, going to a federal court. So as to the vice president at that time, if they jailed him, if he picked a vice president and then he was elected, that whoever that vice president is might be the one serving. I don't know. We're in uncharted territory. Like I said, I don't think anybody knows. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Crowley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. I don't. I'm reading this from thehill.com. This is actually humorous because I actually saw Mitch McConnell's tweet, and it was very, very short. But it's McConnell comes to Trump's defense after guilty verdict. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who has steadfastly refused to comment about the presidential race or his long-running feud with the former president, came to Trump's defense Thursday night, hours after the jury rendered its guilty verdict. McConnell declared that the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, should never have brought the case and predicted the conviction would be overturned. Quote, these charges never should have been brought in the first place. I expect a conviction to be conviction to be overturned on appeal. End of quote. That was the entire tweet. It was almost as like, okay, the pressure is so great on this one, I've got to do it. And I do think this will reunite Republicans. And I think it'll solidify a lot of independent support, because the independent support already believes that Trump has been a victim of a two-tier system of justice. So it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the election and where it goes. But, yeah, I have a feeling that it didn't sound like it wasn't over. I'll put it this way. It wasn't over enthusiastic support for the president, but he did say the right things. But it was almost as if, I don't know why, when I read the tweet, I actually chuckled. It was like, all right, pulling teeth, you're moving in this direction. You got to come over this way. It's like, but it's true. Because really, none of this is about Trump. It's about the rule of law. Trump is just who they are not abiding by the rule of law. He's the victim of them not abiding by the rule of law and making crimes up. This is about the Constitution of the United States. It's about future federal elections. What happened yesterday was just an unmitigated disaster.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.